Serious, what are some men's issues that are overlooked? Loneliness. Many men tend to have a lot of friends, but never close friends or people they feel like truly care about them, which leads to declining mental health, and maybe worse.
So I'm at the park playing tag with these kids I'm babysitting, and out of nowhere this old lady comes up to me and starts asking all sorts of questions. Do you know these kids? What are their names? Can you call their parents for me? Even asking the kids if they knew me, and when they answered yes, she responded with, "You don't have to lie. If you don't know this man, you can tell me and I can help you."
I am a single father with primary custody of a school-age child with little social support in my area. I was also the stay-at-home parent while I went back to college and completed my degree. It is damn near impossible to find good childcare. My female work friends volunteer but then bail at the last minute. I'm looked at as a threat by husbands of my son's classmate parents. I find that I'm often the only guy at the playground and get sideways glances from the cliques of women who go there. If I hire a babysitter, I have to make sure I'm overly cautious about respecting boundaries, if I'm even able to have a babysitter watch my child. Also, the normal competition among female mothers gets amplified and I'm often looked down on as a parent. I don't fit in with working guys who just want to go out and get a beer because I have a child to take care of, and women often reject me on online dating sites simply because I have a child. I love my son and would do anything in the world for him. I feel like I've done a lot, but men in my situation have zero to little support or infrastructure to manage as a single, full-time parent in society. Men can be just as good parents as women, and society needs to normalize this pronto. Edit. I probably won't be able to address all the comments, there were way more than I expected, but I really appreciate all the feedback and support.
So this one might not be as serious as the others. I babysit my friends' kids all the time. One is 3 and the other is 11. I like to take them out and about to have some fun. We go eat food, we go to the park, and arcades too. We have a ton of fun, but I always get weird looks from people. They don't look like me at all because I'm not the father. I've had people interrogate me and it's weird to me. I've been there their entire life and treat them like my own kids, so it kinda hurts. Edit. Well beep, I guess it's more serious than I thought.
I saw a woman attempting to hit her boyfriend outside a local supermarket. He walked away from her. She followed him and kept hitting him. After this went on for about 90 seconds, he shoved her away roughly once. 2 cars immediately stopped and men jumped out of them shouting at and threatening this guy for shoving her. Nobody did anything when she was attacking him. Edit. There are a lot of people commenting that I didn't help him either. I reported the incident to the security guard. Both the man and the woman were bigger than me. I'm not a big, tough person. There are limits to what I would ever get physically involved in, plus when the other people jumped out of their cars they could just as easily have targeted me if I had got involved. I did what I could without endangering myself.
The miserable paternity leaves. Cause what man wants to spend time with his newborn kid and a recovering wife, right?
The lack of a good support system. Just because a guy has people that he hangs out with doesn't mean he's comfortable telling them serious personal issues.
Isolation. I've felt this myself, and I've done some reading about it. Men tend to become more isolated and lonely as they get older. After a certain point, they don't make an effort to gain friendships and tend to shy away from any type of social engagement. I feel this way, because as of right now, I don't have a close male friend. At least not someone I can talk to about things going on with me personally. I know a lot of people, but I'm less and less engaged with them as each year passes. It concerns me as of late, because I don't want to end up a hermit, but without a solid relationship, I could see myself headed this direction in my older years.
Height is a common thing to joke about. Nobody sees a problem with it, but it can really whittle away at your self-worth when people always make fun of you for it.
Lack of purpose and direction in life. Not necessarily a male-only deal, but still, I see it everywhere and it should be discussed. I see so many threads on forums and boards where people are looking for basic beep life advice, where to go, what to do with their life, how to be happy like everybody else, acting as though something is inherently wrong with them because our culture expects you to sort of go along with all of it. But I say, you know what? These are completely normal, rational, and expected reactions given the circumstances. I don't want to be a doomer or a late-stage capitalist, collapsology kind of guy, but I am seeing these sentiments and opinions communicated online to others much more than in the past, both on Reddit and other forums of discussion, and it reflects an alarming trend for young people in general. The older generations will, for the first time in history, probably have lived better lives than their successors will. Parents in the Gen X generation did so poorly, on the whole, in preparing kids for their adult lives. I'm not much better myself. I see young people and they seem abjectly hopeless, and why the beat would they not be? You can go online and hear, not just from sociologists and experts on formal platforms like YAMS and TED Talks and podcasts and beat, but also regular people like you and I, randoms on the internet, on discussion forums like you are on now, talking how going to college, once seen as a panacea that provided all with their complete future happiness, success, and stability, is no longer a guarantor of anything at all. Rather, it has been entirely corrupted into a sort of unspoken requirement to make the bare minimum to even live comfortably in the United States. And for what? To work in a white-collar job which is increasingly being beep and generally unfulfilling and unstimulating. Read David Graeber's Beep Jobs, it's enlightening, so one can pay a mortgage or rent and medical/car expenses. And sure, you could go into trades, which is usually the alternative option internet denizens will give you when you ask about this subject, but that requires just as much commitment to another job and its associated apprenticeship, but often in physically demanding and hazardous circumstances that take a great toll later in life on top of the existing stresses of having a job. And if you do decide to follow your passion, perform something fulfilling? Like, say, work at a food bank nonprofit or tending to sick children in the remote jungles of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, or something like that? You'll make less, something Graeber also noted from studies cited in his book. There is literally a negative correlation with statistics and mathematics backing it. One would think the teachers should be paid more for their work, given the effects they have on society, but alas. On top of that, we are so overworked that just taking the time to meet people, make friends, keep hobbies, take in experiences, is impossible, and between all of this, the world is descending into political insanity. It's baffling that there are still people in the United States waving Trump flags, nearly a year after the election finished. Nationalism and authoritarianism is on the rise, dooming us to the same mistakes of the past, and the environment is getting worse, with worse storms, heat waves, droughts, pollution, etc. How do you even have the desire to buy a house if you're not sure it will be there in 20 years due to coastal flooding, crime, or a firestorm? I have literally heard people refuse to have children because they fear for the future. Dwell on that for but a moment to think of the profoundness of that. Those reading this of the younger stripe can easily recall multiple instances of their parents badgering and pestering them to just go out and just go get more friends, as if they were choosing to be this way, as if we were just going to act as though the old theory of spontaneous disease generation were relevant for depression, anxiety, and melancholy, rather than a byproduct of our maligned, beep society? But when do you meet with others? I spend much of my weekend doing chores and obtaining groceries and supplies. How, where? Have you been on Meetup? Do you know how much of a chore it is to go on Nextdoor and sift through 1,000 posts of conspiratorial beep and lost dogs to find an active group, or perhaps drive to a library/community center to look at a bulletin board to try and find like-minded individuals to do anything? You'll notice the interesting hobby groups cater mostly to older people and focus on the world and what it offers, while the younger groups are fantasy/gaming groups and drinking groups. Now why ever might that be? And then, if you decide to pick a group, they have to rely on the others to commit to showing up, who might not because, the reasons above. Of course, there's also the looming thought of the future and its generally awful outlook. Young people are rightly concerned about the world and the future, but older people literally could not care less, often joking brazenly how it's our problem, not theirs, we'll figure it out, because they'll be dead and what the hell are you going to do about it, sue a dead generation of people? Young folks want to make sure we stop burning coal and they want to end homelessness and make sure everyone can go to the doctor without fearing crippling debt, but they are tired and so busy keeping their beep together that they either can't make change for fear of losing everything, who wants to risk their job, their children's future, financial stability by getting arrested at a protest. It only takes one felony to end up like Jean Valjean, always trying to redeem yourself from an uncaring society that seeks to punish you always. Or if they actually do manage to get out of the crab bucket, They just end up exacerbating the problem, saying beep you, I got mine, because they worked hard, so pull yourself up by your bootstraps like me, you lazy bastard, even though those strips of leather are getting older, thinner, and weaker every year. I can absolutely see a sort of hikikomori class coming up within the coming 2 decades. The economists and eggheads and internet denizens call them NEETs, but I can see them becoming more common as more young people say why bother? I don't want to work in an office / like a slave my entire life. And they just stop caring. And it's not because they want to play video games and be lazy, although I imagine escapism, fantasy, and wanderlust is certainly something that is chaste, but because the expected life paths that the average Gen Z and millennial faces lead to zero fulfillment, if you can even manage to achieve them, and it is harder and harder every year to just get basics like housing, medical, education, etc., regardless of where you go.
Men who are victims of sexual assault, rape, domestic abuse, male suicide rates, and depression.
Men are frequently treated as expendable. Even in countries with mingled militaries, men are the overwhelming majority of combat troops and thus casualties. Not to mention pretty much all child soldiers are male. If you are male bin the ages of 14 to 60 and happen to be anywhere near a combat zone, even if it's your own backyard, you are considered a military-age male, and a possible target. News media regularly says things like, 100 killed including 14 women and children, as if the other 86 men don't matter as much. Something like 90% of all workplace injuries and fatalities are male. Whether men seek out more dangerous jobs or only men are selected for those jobs is debatable.
There are almost always more shelters available to women experiencing homelessness. In my city, the split is about 75% beds for women and children and 25% for men. I understand that society considers women more vulnerable, but I live in a city where it routinely gets below zero in the winter. Hypothermia doesn't care about your gender.
Male disposability. If something is dangerous, send men. Your partner can replace you easily. Your only value is what you offer to other people, and the minute you are not useful anymore, people cast you aside like the fungible commodity you are. I would like to be treated like I have inherent value as a person, not like I'm something to be tolerated until I'm no longer useful.
Erectile dysfunction. It seems like a joke, but guys literally kill themselves because of it. It's like losing the ability to love, losing your manhood, losing your ability to feel intimate with someone.
In Western culture, men are defined by what they do and not by who they are, being. So, when they retire, they often develop mental illness because they are no longer doing. This often leads to suicide. Then there's the whole nonsense of the stoic emotionless man getting on with the work.
Abuse from women / other men. We're told to just take it and toughen up, it builds character, puts hair on the chest, etc., and we don't need support or a helping hand. Beep that.
Sorry man, we can't arrest her just because you have bruises and endless death threats. The prosecutor won't even file. It's really beep buddy, we know. You can't go back to your house. She's established residency and only a judge can order her to leave your property. I didn't believe the guy. The police confirmed it for me. Poor dude. I didn't even know we had this much power. The only option to get the person out of your house is a month-long process in court. A process she must legally be notified of. While she barricades you out of your own home, destroying everything in your name. That's real beep. Most guys won't go on TV like we will to tell the story. Sorry, dudes. We have a lot of power.
Emotional abuse of men. My BF suffered that in both his marriages, and I am so careful to not say or do anything that could make him feel the way they made him feel. I try very hard to be sure he knows I value him for who he is, just the way he is, every single day. Even he doesn't know how much damage they caused him. I will never get over this 1950s assumption that women can't abuse men. Women abuse men way more often than anyone realizes, and the system is stacked against men in so many different ways. Edit. I've only been on Reddit for 2 days, so I don't understand the reward system, but thank you.
Male pattern baldness and the impact it can have on mental health and body image. Imagine being in college surrounded by guys with perfect NW1 hairlines with all these cool fades and modern trendy hairstyles while you're stuck looking like Moby or Varys from GOT. Brutal.
The consequences of body shaming, it has the same effect on men as it does women. No one likes to be insulted, no matter who you are. Just because we are a different sex, does not mean our minds are so vastly different that we react differently to even the most basic of things. Some women think we are emotionless, meant to serve them. Sorry if I had worded this wrong.
Kind of a hidden one that's clouded by many of today's norms and cultural values, but the concept of disposability with men and many things that make them individual beings.
Insecurity in general. You're not supposed to show that you have doubts or worries about your abilities or self-image. A man is supposed to be confident, able and self-assured. It's not okay for men to admit that they lack self-esteem, or that they have genuine problems with their self-image, as they are seen as weaknesses in and of themselves. Other men or women aren't going to bring you up. They won't provide emotional support and tell you it's okay to be unconfident or to feel shame about who you are. They will simply expect that you should take it on the chin. Not everyone can be that guy. But, for a man, what actually makes you feel like a man is being that guy. So you kind of walk around pretending that you're happy, despite the fact that you're not seen as valuable or as desirable as other men, because in doing so, you would be seen as even less valuable or desirable. TLDR. If you feel like beep and are insecure, it's bad. But if you display that you feel like beep and are insecure, it's even worse. Beep, I've never really been able to put that feeling into words before, but that felt insanely good to get off my chest.
99.999% of all combat casualties, 94% of all workplace deaths, 93% of the prison population, 80% of all suicides, 76% of all homeless, 74% of all homicide victims, 38% of all rape victims live 7 years fewer, work 0.6 more hours per workday while alive, twice the prison sentence for the same crime, 16% chance of being awarded custody of their children, handle finances in 25% of families, responsible for 12% of all retail purchases, 43% of all college admissions, and the minority since 1979, 41% of all graduate school admissions. Academic gaps widening rapidly.
Mental health. And this is coming from someone who has lived on the ideas of, you're a guy, get over yourself. It was taught to me, I didn't think much of it, and now that I'm about to hit 20, I can feel the effects like a ripple. It's actually hard for me to open up to people, and when I do, I feel like I'm wasting everyone's time.
Men who are the victim of domestic abuse.
A really big one is abuse. Sexual assault or rape isn't taken seriously when it happens to men.
The entire child custody, child support system.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.